What you're looking at right here is the brand new second generation Apple HomePod. Not the mini, the full-size Apple HomePod. And although it may look familiar, Apple changed a lot about this. The sound, the features, everything else that we're going to talk about in this video is not only going to focus on what's new about this, but also, in case you didn't have a HomePod before, just give you a full review of what this device is really all about. Now, right up front, I love this device. I'm an avid smart speaker user, and I've had pretty much all of them out there. I used to have a Nest Mini, then I had a full-size Echo, but it kept trying to upsell me junk, so then I switched over to a Bose Portable Smart Speaker, which had great sound, but was a little bit slow with the assistant, and now I'm going all in on the Apple HomePod. I'm actually using this full-time. That is my smart speaker of choice now, and in this video, I'll explain why that is. Now, before anyone goes down in the comments and gets mad and says, oh, here's an Apple fanboy, trust me, I'm not. I've used everything else. I use a Pixel as my everyday phone, but Apple, when they make good products, you gotta acknowledge that. Now this right here, the Apple HomePod, is selling for $299, so a little bit pricier than some other smart speakers out there, but the features and the quality you get out of that, I think really demand that price. Okay, so taking a look at the HomePod right here, like I said, a familiar design. There are two different colors. It's covered in a mesh that's made out of recycled materials, so you can feel a little bit better about buying this. And the design of this, like I said, white and a black one, I'm really happy with this. I think it looks really nice, and I think it could blend in with a lot of different home styles out there. I've put this in several places throughout my studio, as well as my home and my office, and in all spaces, it seems to fit in really well and kind of disappear. Now, you can obviously hear it, and it really adds a lot to a room, but it's not like an eyesore that you always see. On top of that, they did add a lot on the inside of this. So for one, we have temperature and humidity capabilities now, so I could simply ask Siri what the temperature or the humidity is in here, and she can tell me that, which first of all is great, but second of all, you can also use that for some automations that we'll talk about later on in the video. Another great thing with this one is that you can use them as a stereo pair, either for listening to music or maybe for your TV. If you have an Apple TV, you can set these up on either side of your TV and have a really impressive and really immersive sound when you're watching a movie or whatever, gaming, whatever it might be. And not to get too far into the features too early, but they did also change the tone on here, so you get a gentle confirmation tone that in my opinion is not too obtrusive. So if you ask Siri to turn off the lights in another room, it's not going to tell you, oh, I turned off the lights. It's just going to make a subtle little tone that acknowledges that it heard what you said and successfully did the command. So that, I think, is a big positive in making this essentially, the big theme here is a smart speaker that disappears when you don't want it. And of course, on the top, the classic HomePod appearance where we have the plus button, the minus button, you can tap in the middle to play or pause. And of course, we have that really cool light underneath it that makes it look really nice. And on top of that, of course, you can do a handoff with your iPhone. So just tap your iPhone on there and it'll transfer whatever audio from YouTube or Spotify or whatever you're listening to over to your HomePod. But getting into the actual sound, that's probably one of the biggest reasons you're buying this speaker. Like, sure, it's got Siri, sure, it has a lot of great features, but the sound has to be a big focus here, especially for that price. And after using these, I'm not disappointed by any means. I think the sound, especially when you have a stereo pair, is really a room-filling sound, and there is a good reason for that. So essentially what Apple did here is they have 5 beam-forming tweeters on the bottom that point upwards, so you don't have the table reflections or other weird sounds. And of course, we've got a woofer in there as well. But those beam-forming tweeters allow it to customize the sound based on the room it's in using computational audio. So you're getting plenty of warm, rich, and true bass out of this. Like, it really is a very powerful bass, but also a clean and natural sound in no matter what room it's really in. So it's not overpowering, it's not too weak. You really just have a good balance across the board. And getting a little bit more into that computational audio, essentially what this speaker does is with those 5 beam-forming tweeters, it's able to play music, of course, and actually get feedback on here, and based on that feedback, identify where the points of reflection are, where like some weak spots are, and kind of adjust accordingly and present focal points in a song, such as lead vocals to be in the middle of the room and ambient sounds to go more so along the edge of the wall. So really an impressive smart speaker that is not just smart in what it's able to tell you, but also smart in how it's able to play the music for you. And I know I keep saying it has a good balance in different rooms, but one of the things I really look for in a good speaker is the balance at different volumes, right? You don't always want your smart speaker at volume 70 or volume 100. Sometimes you have it a little bit quieter for some ambient music. And what I listen to a lot in earbuds and speakers is if I kind of habitually like turn up the volume because I'm trying to hear details, if I'm trying to hear the bass, trying to hear the vocals, then something's not right. But with this, I find that no matter what volume it's at, I'm very comfortable listening to the song and it still feels like a nice balance. You're getting good bass lines, good vocals, even when you're all the way down at 10% volume. But if you want to dial this all the way up to 100%, like you can really jam out and it'll shake your entire couch.
Okay, let's hear it from about 55-60% volume. Wow.
Now, spatial audio here is a little bit different than the AirPod spatial audio. It's not based on like where you look or anything, but it is based on kind of the same concept of music being played on either side of your head or of the room in this situation. And so you can do that with one, obviously, but with stereo pairing, it makes even more sense. And it does a really good job of not just having the left-right as a stereo obviously would, but also kind of making things sound like they're up the walls and in different places. Like it is impressive. The 5 beam-forming tweeters on there really do make a pretty big difference. So it really makes it sound just a lot bigger than it actually is, and it makes it a lot more immersive. Now, that's not to say it's perfect, but as far as smart speakers go, I think it's needless to say I was very impressed with this. Of course, you can, as I said, put this next to your Apple TV. Unfortunately here, it doesn't actually work with anything that's not an Apple TV. So if you have a Roku, if you've got a Chromecast, whatever, you're not going to be able to connect to these by Bluetooth. You really do need to have the Apple TV. That is one huge downside about this and kind of Apple products in general is that, sure, you bought an Apple product, but you didn't buy enough Apple products. So this actually doesn't work unless you have an iPhone or an iPad to set it up. It also doesn't work for your TV unless you have an Apple TV. So some other little drawbacks like that. But if you're in the ecosystem already, I mean, it's really seamless. You plug it in, you on your phone, you have the pop-up, and it's set up and ready to go. Easy to connect to your TV. You can ask Siri to play things. You can hand off from your iPhone. Really seamless once you're in that ecosystem. And as far as features go, I mentioned a few of these before. So for one, it can listen for smoke alarms or carbon monoxide alarms in your house. So if you're traveling, you'll get a notification if something goes off and you can turn on your security cameras and see if anything's going on. So kind of a nice feature for some peace of mind if you're traveling or if you're just at work during the day. Being able to tell the temperature and the humidity, as I said before, was nice just to figure out, what the climate is in your house, but also say you have one of these in a sunnier side of your house and you have some automated roller shades. Like I've got these Serena shades from Lutron. I used to work at Lutron, so that's why I have these. They're a great product. And essentially, if it's really hot on that side, because the sun's always coming in on that side, you can have this, essentially have an automation on here that says if it gets above a certain temperature, close the shade, because that would tell you that it's getting really sunny on that side of the house and heating it up too much. And maybe in the summer, you just want to close that shade a little bit to cool down that room. Of course, this can also control smart home devices, especially ones connected through Matter. So I've got a little smart outlet and I can just say, hey Siri, turn on the lights, or hey Siri, turn off the lights, and she can do that very easily. This can take phone calls, and one of the big ones here that we've seen on a lot of other smart speakers now is the intercom feature, which you can essentially say from your phone or from any one of these devices, like, hey, dinner's ready, or hey, like, we're leaving, or something like that. And throughout your house, especially in a larger house or a taller house that has more divisions and you can't just yell and hear everyone, it's a great feature that you could have. Apple's also adding Find My, but not just for your phone and your earbuds, now for your friends and family as well. And of course, as always, you can add automations based on arrival and departure, like when your iPhone leaves the premise, obviously, based on time or based on the sensors, as I said before. But although I really like these speakers, not everything is positive. So we need to talk about some of the drawbacks and figure out if they're actually drawbacks for you. The first one, as I mentioned before, was you really need to be in the Apple ecosystem. At least you need to have an iPhone to even use this. And if you want to use it with your TV, you need an Apple TV. The second one is you don't really have Siri Spotify support with here, at least not right now, but you can play Spotify in here as long as you set it up on your phone first. Otherwise, Apple Music works really well, and of course, Apple made sure of that. That's no accident. The next drawback is that, unfortunately, it is substantially more expensive than an Amazon Echo, even the full-size one. I think you're getting much better audio quality out of this, and also it's not always trying to upsell you everything. Like when you ask the weather, it's not going to say, by the way, did you know there's a sale today? Which Amazon always does that, which is why I almost threw that thing out the window and ultimately stopped using it. But again, if you don't mind that, That is 1/3 the price. It's $99 versus $299. There are plenty of other smart speakers out there that are anywhere in between with price, but the last drawback here is that they don't really have the connectivity I would like. It doesn't have Bluetooth, which seems like a clear miss. But overall, like I said before, it seems like this product was designed to kind of blend into a room. Like, you don't really notice it. It's kind of subtle. It's there when you need it. It's not when you don't, but also fill the room at the same time with sound and the ability to sense temperature and things like that. So my conclusion here is, this is obviously really expensive. We cannot deny it's an expensive product, but if you can't afford it, buy two. It's really fun when you have a pair. It makes such a difference when you have that stereo pair. And if you're in the Apple ecosystem, I don't know, you have to try it. At the very least, go to like a Best Buy near you and just listen to it because it is really impressive. So I'm glad that I have two right here, and I will definitely be using these as my everyday smart speakers, probably both in the same room just because they sound so good and it's so fun. But that's my take on the Apple HomePod, the second generation. Not a perfect device, but a very exciting one that I think might actually get overlooked because it looks so similar to the previous devices. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. I'm Michael Bryan. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. And don't call me a fanboy.